character, you're thinking, here's the big bad that I've been seeing all game long. And then the weight of the dialogue that you first deliver to the player character with Sovereign, and the impending fear and doom of what the Reapers mean for what eventually became a 3-part, a memorable gaming trilogy. When you got the script and were recording those lines, did you like feel the gravitas in those lines? Because it felt so, on the receiving end, felt so impactful.
Absolutely. No, and of course they don't give you a script. You show up and it's there on the screen, and you can scan through it, but you're pretty much cold reading. And I knew what the character was, and I knew what the vibe they wanted was. And of course we had a director who was great, and we'll set it up for you. But when I saw that dialogue, the whole, you exist because we permit it, and I'm just like, holy crap. Look at that. I just got goosebumps. I gave myself goosebumps because it is such an amazing just chunk of dialogue. It's like you don't really get great monologues very often in video games. And to get that, I was like, I'm going to chew up, just gnaw on this because this is great.
And a testament to your performance is, that series, they improved the gameplay mechanics, they refined the gameplay, and it just got better and better as the games went on. But when I look back on Mass Effect, it's that the first one's always going to have a special place in my heart because of that key moment, and knowing that you were able to be the character to deliver that, what is to me the most memorable moment of the trilogy, is so impactful.
That's the point where the story takes an abrupt left turn too. Because you're like, this is kind of a fun kind of space opera, and I'm doing this and I'm that, and then suddenly it's like, holy shit, this is all about the survival of every living species. Whoops, so that's
totally flipped the whole vibe on its head, and so awesome. So thank you for answering that. I just feel like it's so cool to hear from the source, like what such an important moment in gaming.
Oh yeah, no, I knew the second I looked at it, this is going to be awesome. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you. I got my question. I'm good. I'm going to head out now. No, I'm feeling good though to get things started with that. So now we're going to open up the floor to you guys. So if you want to raise your hand, Matt here can bring the microphone over to you, and then just let us know who the question's for, and let you guys go from there.
Okay. Thank you. Hi. This is Ashley. I have a question for Peter Jessop. Have you ever played the Resident Evil remake?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. No, when it came out, I played it. I actually had to go out and buy a GameCube to play it. And it drove me crazy because there's a learning curve on the controls for the GameCube. And you got the 2 discs, and you got to swap the damn thing out in the middle. But yes, no, I absolutely played it. It's the first jump scare I ever had in a game, when the Dobermans come through the fucking, and it's like, that was, So, absolutely, loved the game, yes.
Matt, try this one. I have this on now, that's a louder one.
Please stand by.
This one's for Cissy. What was it like to be Lilith on the L House?
Thank you, Amelia. It was a dream come true. It really was. I've worked in games a lot. I've done a ton of video games, which are so much fun. But animation is a whole different beast. And more often than not, celebrities often get cast in animated roles. And so Dana really wanted to make sure that us regular voice actors got a chance. So obviously Wendy Malick was the lead. But when I got that call, I think I fell over. I was so excited, and it just ended up being such a joy from start to finish. I made some of my best friends on that show. Sarah Nicole Robles, who voices Luce, is a very good friend. Avi Roque, who voices Rain, is a very good friend. Dana's a very good friend. And that show was just lightning in a bottle. It was really special. Thank you so much.
All right. Who else has a question?
This question's for both of you. Who are some of your voice acting or acting icons or idols that help you influence your roles?
Okay, I can go first. Obviously, there are a lot of them. Mel Blanc, for me, as a kid growing up, just the sheer depth of his bench. You know, the guy did every character for Warner Brothers, so that was, something. But really, more contemporaneously, Phil Hartman was my hero. Huge fan of Maurice LaMarche, Rob Paulson, all of those guys. And the cool thing is I got to meet them and be friends with them, and that was the best part. So, so those are my heroes. I'm going to let Cissy tell you hers now.
There are so many incredible voice actors, and for the most part, they're lovely, lovely, incredible human beings. Courtney Taylor, who's Jack in Mass Effect, is one of my very best friends and one of my biggest influences. She is a professional to the T, but fun and kind and big-hearted. In fact, if you've been to my table, Courtney actually started a nonprofit called Nerds Vote to help people at conventions get registered to vote and make sure that you vote in every election every time. So she's a huge influence for me. Kari Walgren is another big influence, amazing talent. Gray Delisle. There's so many incredible people in this industry. And, obviously, Tress MacNeille and Mel Blanc and, all these people. Pick one. Throw a dart. There's amazing people everywhere.
All right. Do we have another question coming up? Anybody? I have a couple more, so if people are still thinking, I have a couple that I can do. Okay, I got another one for you, Peter. So, especially since you just mentioned how the script, you don't get the script, you get like these lines, and you're kind of like sometimes reacting to things in real time. Another role that I love is Paladin Danse from Fallout 4, and the way that his storyline progresses, especially with you coming into that storyline and then realizing where the important choices are going to be made. Yeah. When you got those roles, did you kind of like get a similar feeling of like, wow, this could go in so many ways because of the way it plays out and everything? So if you want to talk about that role a little bit and just...
Sure. Paladin Danse was great, and they don't tell you what you're working on either. So the very first session, and I'm a gamer, and I had played Fallout 3, I'd played New Vegas, and was very jealous of all of my friends that got to be in those games, and I was like, and I'm in the booth, and one of my first lines is, there's a group of ferals holed up in the Cambridge, and I stopped, and I'm like, ferals? Is this Fallout? And they're like, wait, you know Fallout? And I'm like, do I know Fallout? Yes, I know Fallout. So that was very exciting. But we had a director, this guy named Kal-El Bogdanov, who is absolutely on top of everything. He's read the entire script. He has read every variation. He knows exactly what each choice is going to lead to. And he was fantastic, because you'd get to a point and he'd be like, no, don't. You're not going to do it that way because, and then he would tell you why. But the revelation that Paladin Danse, and I'm sorry if you haven't played it yet, there's a spoiler for my character who's a Brotherhood of Steel guy, and he hates super mutants and ghouls and synths, and then he finds out that he actually is a synth, and his whole world collapses. And when that popped up on the screen, I was like, oh my God, this character is fucking awesome. It was like, this is the kind of thing you could dream you get to do. This amazing character arc. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's interesting because, especially knowing that you were a fan of Fallout, that those are those big choices, those impactful things, because depending on which quest line you want to follow. Maybe the Brotherhood of Steel is the plot that you want to follow more, but then, to be more on brand with the Brotherhood of Steel, you'd kind of be anti-synth. So if you like that character when you were assuming he was Brotherhood of Steel, it kind of it makes you, as you're playing, think of it. And so that's why I just found it interesting, as the role itself.
Well, it's funny because even after you find out that Danse is a synth, if you save him, which you can do, and you keep him with you, he's still a dick to Nick Valentine, which I think is hilarious and strong. You know, he's just, if you get them together, or any of them actually, he and Hancock, if you guys can get Paladin Dance and Hancock together, it is hilarious. But if you get him and Strong together, and you just leave them in one of your settlements, they will beat the crap out of each other. Just nonstop pounding each other back and forth. It's just a joy to sit there and watch. You don't even have to play. You just sit there and let them do it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you. And I'll go to interject with one more for Cissy before I open back up to you guys if you have any more. We were talking about how like games have different ways of storytelling. That's why I wanted to ask about Firewatch. Another series that is very story heavy is Life is Strange. And I wanted to know, like, I guess just some of how that experience compares to some of the other roles you've done, because it, again, has lots of choice. It has lots of different directions the story can go. And even when you're not like a main character, like that's like the player character, there's still ripples throughout the storyline. So if you can talk about the Life is Strange experience a little bit and how that might have compared to some of the other roles you've done, that would be something I'd like to hear.
I love that game. I love that game so much. Life is Strange came right on the heels of The Walking Dead, which was my very first job. Katya in The Walking Dead was my first voiceover job, and then I did a bunch of characters throughout that series. So I'd kind of gotten used to the narrative storytelling. I kind of think of it more as like interactive movies, you know. But it was fun. I got to act opposite Ashley Birch. She played my a-hole kid. It was. I think that was kind of the age where games, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they really took a turn from like the pew 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 to like, let's see if we can get these assholes to cry. I want to make people cry, and it was really fun. You know, it was great to pour this whole other side of emotion into these characters and like really make you care about calling your mother. Call your mothers. It was great. It was so fun.
No, that's excellent to hear. And you know, like it resonates so much when you're playing a more emotional storyline like that. And yeah, I forget that's after Walking Dead, which that game also was a pioneer in choice-based storytelling, where you, like you said, it feels like an interactive movie. So it's great to see, you know, not just the memorable roles, but for your career, it's nice to see that, like, you know, the things you adapted from like the, you know, a role prior, how you can use those to really make, you know, another role come to life even more. So that's excellent. So do we have any other questions in the audience? I want to open up to you guys. Yep. Why don't we go? Where's Matt? Oh yeah, sorry, he's all the way over there. Oh, is it off? It might be off. Just look fun. The light will come on.
All right. I think I got it. So, I like to thank you for coming for special even if you're RetroGameCon Spring Edition. So, when will be the RetroGameCon? Be next year here at my home, sweet home, Syracuse.
He says, when will RetroGameCon be next
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. He wants to know when will RetroGameCon be next year.
Oh, well, we don't know 100% the exact dates because a lot of times there's conflicted stuff, but you can bet that it'll be around this time of year for the Spring Edition and around October, early October for the other one, and we will have many great guests just like the ones we had here for RetroGameCon Spring Edition. So thank you for your question. There was somebody else who had their hand up too, right? Want to go right up here first, Mac?
Hello. So this could be for both of you, but Cissy mentioned having a home studio and recording a great conversation when it came to Firewatch. how common is it today once you've landed a project to record from a home studio versus going into a studio? And then once you've gone into a studio, do you ever get to have those kind of interactions with other cast members or anything like that?
And what was the second part?
Once you go into a studio, do you ever get those kind of interactions where you get to have like a conversation like you had with Firewatch or the other? Yeah, I was gonna say.
So, for example, I never met Wendy Malick. I never met her, which just breaks my heart. And I was gone. I was in London actually during the wrap party for the whole show, and I missed it. And I was like, yeah, so pre-COVID, maybe like half of people had a home studio. And then when COVID hit, it was like, everybody needs a home studio. So everybody got a home studio. And then people moved all over the world. And now it's kind of coming back a little bit more in studio, just for continuity of sound, because my booth is going to sound different than his, is going to sound different than yours, right? So it's becoming a little more important to be located in a major hub, more so than it was 5 years ago. But to actually get to interact with your castmates is like next to never. Next to never. So.
Thank you.
Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I'll just add that sometimes if you're doing mocap on a project and they're doing the cutscenes and whatnot, I was just telling Cissy I did a game called Concord, which came out in the last week of August last year, and had the plug pulled the first week of September, and it's a shame because it was a beautiful game, and the gameplay was amazing, the maps were amazing, everything was terrific. But it was the first chance I'd had in 5 years at that point to interact with the other people in the cast. And as I said to Cissy, I said, you know, we all fell in love with each other. And you're my best friends. Oh my God, this is so great, because we got a chance to actually work with other people for a change. So that was great, but those are not very common. That's a very rare occurrence.
Do you?
I also worked on a mocap project for the Texas Chainsaw Massacres. So we're literally just hacking each other to bits and being like, oh my God, I love you. No, I love you. No, stop.
Do you find that convention appearances like this are almost an opportunity to sometimes rub shoulders with some of your peers that you never got to work
Well,
directly
Cissy
with?
and I have been friends for years.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen each other in probably 2 years.
Probably like 7 or 8.
Really, you think? Okay, it's been a while. I don't know. The whole COVID just goes by like that. But so when they gave me the call to come here, I was like, oh, I'm absolutely. I get to hang out with Cissy, 100%. Yeah.
That's really exciting to hear, because to know that you're doing such, impactful work that's, everybody's like loving the roles, but knowing that you guys, the poor actors, don't get to like have that connection that.
Well, and sometimes it's the first time we meet each other. So, like Sam Bayard and I worked on Baldur's Gate together. I never met them until I went to some con somewhere. Never met Bill Lobley until this morning. So it's also that's the thing about games, is like you could work on a project with somebody for years and then you never meet them.
No, that's great perspective though. That's the kind of stuff that we as players don't know, like behind the scenes, or even people who want to get into voice acting. It's kind of good to know what the reality of the job looks like. And so I'm happy as a showrunner of an event like this that we get to help with that part at least, because it's nice. And I know as a fan it's great to be able to interact with you, but it's cool that you guys get to interact with each other too. So that's excellent to hear. I think we had another.
I saw a
hand up,
question
right?
over there.
Oh yeah, right
I want to
over
make sure
there.
we get to
Matt,
this
you wanna
gentleman
get-
over here. These microphones hate us.
Check, 1, 2. Okay, there we go. Thank you both for your performances over the years. Some just great characters, some beautifully delivered lines, building amazing moments in so many lives. You talked about your influences. You've now embodied iconic characters yourself. What advice would you have to offer the next generation who look to you and say, I want to pursue that as my life, my profession, my performance, my career?
I know you're going to want me to say, like, be an actor and go to acting school. Here's what I'm going to say first. Read your contracts. Read your contracts. Make sure you're not signing your life away to AI, and I'm not joking, please. Prior to prior to the current video game strike, which solidarity and SAG-AFTRA for the strike, the clauses that we used to have to sign in order to work on a project would say that they would own our recordings in perpetuity throughout the known universe and any technology currently existing or to be created. That is not hyperbole. That's the exact verbiage. That is changing, especially with the onset of AI. So if you are interested in doing this as a profession, make sure you understand that if somebody is asking for your digital rights, your synthetic rights, your replica, whatever, know what that means. Don't just sign it away, and don't do it for fucking $5, pardon my French, but like, care about your worth, please. If it's important to you, call your representatives and let them know how much it's important to you. I've been doing a lot of work around legislative advocacy. Please make sure that your reps understand how important it is to you that you as a human own the right to your voice, because right now you do not. I do not. You do not. None of us own the rights to our voice currently. That's really important. Call your reps. Now to the fun part. Oh my God, acting classes. Because of COVID, there have been some really incredible voice acting schools that have popped up mostly in a Zoom capacity. So VoiceOver Camp is really great with Kritzia Bajos. Voice Tracks West has some great classes. D. Bradley Baker put together a website called iwanttobeavoiceactor.com, which has incredible resources on it. There are really wonderful teachers out there. There are also people that are trying to just take your money. If somebody offers you to come to a seminar for a weekend and promises you a demo at the end of it, run like the devil. Don't let them take your money for something like that. It takes time and it takes effort. It took me 2.5 years of solid, consistent classes to get to a point that I was ready to make a demo. I don't have an acting background. I have a business degree. Sorry. But, learn the craft. Learn it, understand it. Understand also, this is a big one, that who you know can help get you to the table, but what you know will get you through the door. I'm done.
I have very little to add to that. With the exception of voice acting specifically as opposed to other formats like television, film, reading comprehension is absolutely key. If you can look at a page and the faster you can understand and process and know what you're going to do with it, the more effective you are as a voice actor. And if you can get through it on your first take without screwing it up because you already know what you're going to do, they will bring you back. The guy that they have to go through it 15, 20 times before they can finally get the take they want, not so much. So, yes, learn how to act, take acting classes, take voice classes. There's a whole microphone technique aspect to voice acting that you can be taught, and once you learn it, you will sound like a professional. But ultimately, it's the reading comprehension, in my opinion.
You both have mentioned that director and actor communication that happens a lot. So that to me speaks a lot to what like you're saying now is like if you're reading off the page and understanding it, that's going to really help in what their intent was for the role. So that's very, very informative. That's great to hear.
You have to be moldable. Because like Peter's saying, often we'll get in the booth, we have no idea what project it is, we have no idea what our script is, we have no idea what our character is, and they throw you in the booth and they're like, hey, cool, so you're a 700-year-old alien and you just killed your best friend, so you're out for retribution, and by the way, you turn at the end, you have a huge character arc, we're not there yet, go. And you're like, hello, my name is, but then they'll also ask you to do like an ABC take, which means 3 in a row, which means you can say something like, welcome to Syracuse. Welcome to Syracuse. Welcome to Syracuse. And it's got to be different every time. But you have to be able to read the context clues on the page, blah, 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 blah. It's a whole thing. Reading out loud is incredibly helpful.
All right. I think we had another. Yeah, we want to do this one up here, and then we'll do you after. So, Matt, can you come up front?
Hello.
Is it on? Yes.
Hello. I'm not very good at this. My question is for both of you. And what is the most unusual or funniest voice direction you have been given while in the booth?
So one of the things we have to do a lot in voiceover is called efforts. So this is the nonverbal sounds, the grunts, the cries, the screams, the deaths. Liam O'Brien actually was one of my first directors. He told me, listen, efforts sucks. Everyone hates them. But it's the perfect combination of poop and sex. Right?
I'd say that and this is one of my favorites because you said the funniest direction you got. And it's again with efforts. This was years and years ago. We're doing various death sounds. So you've been shot. Ugh. Okay, now you're falling off a cliff. Ah! Now you're on fire. Ah! Now you're on fire, falling off a cliff. Now you've been shot, you're on fire, and you're falling off a cliff. And I did them. I don't know how different they came out, but you know, I was like, you've got to be joking.
Every
How very
variation.
specific. How very specific.
Video game.
Yeah.
So, to both of you, have you had a character that you've given life?
That what?
Testing 1, 2. Okay.
I'll try to make it.
No, I think he keeps hitting the button with his finger.
Maybe
Oh, that's why, because the battery's dead.
So, any of the characters that you've given life to that have changed you or affected you outside of the recording because you've spent so much time with them, does it affect your own personality?
I'll let you go there.
So, I think you said, have any of the characters affected us personally? Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. I believe, for me personally, every character that I do has a little piece of me in it. You know, listen, spoiler alert, I'm not actually a giant brain trying to flay your minds. But there's a piece of me in her, right? There's a piece of me in Joyce. There's a piece of me in Katya. There's a huge piece of me in Delilah and Lilith. Katya messed me up in a big way. I was recording that game in 2010, 11, and I was pregnant with my first kid. And spoiler alert, my kid in the game gets bit, and my kid in the game dies. And when I tell you I had the worst nightmares about, you know, being pregnant, having a baby, and living through the zombie apocalypse, it messed me up in a big way. It really did. Yeah. Yeah.
I think she's right in that every character is going to affect you a little bit in some ways. I, for some reason, get cast a lot as synthetic life forms. And I think partly that's because my neural divergence is shining through with every audition. So I don't know. Yeah, I guess they do affect you, but I can't think of any specific instances. Like that's pretty remarkable. But no.
I also I was recording for the DLC of The Walking Dead, the 500 Days, and I was playing the role of Dee, who gets her face bashed in with a metal pipe. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! I went into labor in that session, and they were like, "Hey, would you be okay giving us some pain grunts?" And I'm like, "Yes, let's do the pain." Finished the session, thank you very much, and 3 hours later, I had a child.
All right. Well,
Was there one more question
yeah, I was
over
gonna
here?
Say we'll open
okay.
up for a few
Oh, there's
more
a
before we
couple.
close out. So, Matt, if you want to do the one in the, we'll do the one in the back first. I saw her hand go up, and then we'll have you next.
Matt, why don't you hold the microphone?
Yes, good idea.
Not sure. yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is for Sissy, but if you didn't hear.
Is this thing on? Hello, testing. Is it just very faint?
Yeah, these two that are now have battery are lower. You can try the one I was using. It might be a little louder.
Okay.
Just like try to.
This is for Sissy, but if you could have a like, sorry, what's it? I'm sorry. Yeah, like a spin-off of the Owl House. What would it be about, and what would the main characters be? Like,
If I could have a spin-off of the Owl House, what would it be about, and what would the main character? It would be Lilith, obviously, forever. Lilith and Hootie, Adventures of a Lifetime. Road trips forever. I just want to see that show, that universe continued in any possible way. I wouldn't care if I was the main. Of course, I want to be the main. I just want to see more. I loved it so much, and I love the world that Dana created and the people that worked on it and the joy that it brought to so many of you. So, yes, any, all.
Thank you. Here you go.
It's working now. Better batteries.
Does this one work?
This one
I
should
think
be
so.
better.
Tom, quick.
Let me try this one. Take this one so I don't hold it together. Thank you. Right. Try that one.
How about, oh yeah, this one does work. So I was curious, when you guys go into a project and you're starting to get to know a character and you're starting to get a feel for where the plot goes, do you have any flexibility in like playing with the script or changing how the character reacts? Or are you just locked into what's written on the page?
It really depends on the project, and it really depends on the creators. Some creators really want more of a collaborative, symbiotic relationship with the actors, and some creators are like, dude, the words are on the page, don't deviate. You know, I love surprising people and kind of taking it in a way that they didn't maybe expect it. And some people like that, and some people are like, just, it's right there. What are you doing? So that's my take.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with that too. It depends on the project, and I've always been sort of the hand grenade guy in improv. And actually, somebody brought that up to me. Someone I went to college with. It's like, oh man, I used to hate having improv with Jessop, because you'd be in the middle of a scene and suddenly he'd just lob a grenade into the middle of it, and I'm like, well, that's what makes it fun. I mean, come on. So but yeah, sometimes you can, but oftentimes it's like, no, just It's right.
Especially because by the time voiceover comes in, so much has already been created. So they already will have sometimes visuals. They will have the scene mapped out. They will have the timing, right? And so sometimes we just need to get in there and say the thing and move on. If we are involved early enough, we often have a little bit more time for play. Great question. Thank you. Anybody else?
All right. Do we have
Come
any more?
forward.
All right, well then, if we don't have any more questions, I want to thank both of you for doing this panel, and let's get a nice round of applause for them for coming out to Syracuse.
Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for having us.
Of course.
Thank you, Syracuse. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. And we're going to be doing Bill Lobley's panel, I believe, at 4. So if you have some more questions and stuff about his roles, I'll be back. So thanks, guys. We appreciate it. Question I want to start with, so I'm going to...
Aren't you going to introduce me, or...?
I'm not going to introduce Bill.
Damn it.
You guys know who he is already. He's just, he's our guest. No. First of all, let's give a round of applause for Bill Lobley for coming out to Syracuse.
Keep it coming. Keep it coming. Thank you. Yeah, I'm locked in a booth most times. We never get to hear applause. It's like, forget it. So
we're so excited to have you here, and, everybody, you know, they come here to meet people for their different experiences with the roles you've done. But I want to start with a question I have, because I used to work for a McDonald's marketing agency. So the Hamburglar connection was one of those things that, like, you know, sure, I'm a BioShock fan and I love Sealab, so like those were great connections. But I was like, whoa, wait a second. I have a McDonald's marketing background. I want to know, what is that kind of a role like? I know commercials and, you know, those types of roles are their own monster compared to a role in a game or a movie or a show, but specifically the Hamburglar, you know, McDonald's, huge food brand. What kind of, first of all, what is it like to get the direction for a character like a mascot, but also what is doing that voice like?
Okay, I'll start off by saying, rubble, rubble. So, okay, that was free. It's $365.72 if you want me to do it again. No, so it's a multi-layered question because the Hamburglar is iconic, and there are a number of iterations of the Hamburglar. First time he was this very skinny, evil-looking guy that probably scared the hell out of children. And if you're marketing McDonald's food, you really don't want to scare the kids. You know what I mean? Hence the Happy Meal strategy. So. Then they made him a much friendlier guy, and that was probably in the 70s. So they started doing that, and then he went away for a while. So when we wound up doing this commercial for him for a company in, I think, California, a really strange company called Cactus Plant Flea Market. Has anybody heard of that? It's deep. So they wanted to redo the Hamburglar, and so. Part of the question is not what they ask you to do, it's what you already know because you know the character. Like if somebody said, you're going to do Bugs Bunny, I wouldn't have to be like, let me think, wisecracking rabbit from New York. I wouldn't have to like make that up. So it kind of exists. So the question is how you're going to put your own spin on it. And that's kind of what I did. And so some of it is pre-prescribed, but then you see the situation the character is in, and you kind of interpret like how he would say that, you know, like if the Hamburglar was not talking, can barely say hamburger. What's wrong with me? It's the vodka at lunch, you guys. So, Hamburglar's not going to be talking about COVID in 1978. You know what I mean? However, in 2020, he might say, "Rubble, rubble." That's all he ever says. But it's like, and you have a mask on. So you kind of adapt to the environment. So in that respect, one, it's prescribed, and two, it's like, what's he doing? In one of the spots I did, he was driving everybody around to go and get their Happy Meals. He was in the car, and I guess Ronald must have been driving because, you know, he's the driving force. So, yeah, so that was it. But it was really fun, and I'm just shocked at how much attention you can get from doing something that's, again, prescribed.
And, you know, I have a confession to make, too, is in my marketing role, I actually had to don the Hamburglar costume for a few events. So maybe I have.
So this is not a high-level marketing thing.
Yeah,
You're
so
like, it's like, here's the CEO, and
they're
here's
like,
Nathan. It's like, good news, you're working for McDonald's. Bad news, you got to put the costume on.
Yeah, you got to hand out coupons. But
right.
no, so that was just, to me, that like stands out as just such a unique role for you, you know, because there's so many great roles you've done, but that one's like, okay, well, that's so different. It stands out. So thank you for answering that.
Yep.
I'm going to open it up to some questions from the floor. Matt will bring the mic over to you, and then I have a couple others if, you know, people are still thinking of what they want to say. So we can, Matt, you can do this one right here first.
I was going to kind of bring up a question that was from the last talk about AI.
Oh.
And how do you think AI is going to impact the voice acting industry, and do you think we have a chance against them?
Do we stand a chance against AI? No. In the same way, I was talking to Cissy earlier, in the same way we don't have a chance against electric cars. It's going to happen. How do I feel about it? I hate it. Is it going to impact the industry? It already is. So, you know, the genie is effectively out of the bottle. So what do we do about it? Like anything else we do as a union, as union actors, we band together and say, this is a line you can't cross. And if they say, well, we're going to cross the line anyway, that's when we stand together and fight it. So that's like the walk in the picket line kind of side of it. Previous to that is getting, guidelines in place where good producers know that don't do this because it's not fair to the human beings who it may surprise some of you to know that actors are human. You know, so yeah, there's a lot, but there's people like Cissy who are working really, really hard to get those implemented. So yeah, it is scary because if I do, say, I worked on BioShock, and they want to do BioShock 5, and they want to bring back Jeremiah Fink, they could easily go back to the old sessions and say, with AI now, we've got him saying 10 or 15 different things, paragraphs. We can just take that voice print and we'll make him say whatever we want for free. Do you see the danger? So pick your profession. If someone can do exactly what you do best and never have to call you, say you're an artist, a portrait artist, with your own style, like a Picasso, and someone says, I got a computer that can do that exactly, and no one will know. It's like, how would you feel about that? Lousy. So it's frightening. But
Yeah,
together we stand strong, you know.
Yeah.
And if, you know, and any of you, if you want to help with that, just at the very least be aware of it. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because I know Larian, who did Baldur's Gate 3, has sworn that they will never use AI. But I know they're in the minority.
Yeah, but you want that. It's like when we were on strike, the union was on strike. You can sign an interim agreement, which for those not affiliated with the union, that means that you can work with the actors, but as soon as the new contract is signed, you are going to remunerate for the amount that was, you know, that the new contract says, with all the, you know, guidelines, stipulations, clarifications that occur in contracts. So yeah, it's hard, and it's, you know, it's not fun to talk about. I look like I'm having a good time, but this is awful for me. Anyway, yeah.
I actually got a second question, kind of because you mentioned BioShock, and BioShock as a series has a very thematic, similar tones and stuff, and the characters are all uniquely quirky and stuff like that. But they are kind of very different roles that you've done within the same franchise.
Yeah, isn't that fun?
And so I guess because you're working with a lot of the same the people behind the games, but they're very different games in their respective series. Was that experience from your perspective, did that like stand out as like, oh, they're doing something totally different, or they want something different out of me than they did before, even though it's still BioShock
Well, yeah,
on
I mean,
the box?
short answer, 2 different characters. So it's that almost makes it easier as opposed to doing one character, but now he's no longer underwater, he's in the sky. That's for you BioShock fans. So, but it's also, you know, they have, what people might not realize is when you have a high-end video game, you have a director. The guy who directed BioShock Infinite was Ken Levine, and he was awesome. Like, he was actually, way pre-COVID, we were remote, so I was in New York, he was in, I guess, LA at the time. So there he is on the screen, giving this really great direction, and also giving an actor room to play. You know, how would you do it, Bill? He's going to say this. What do you think about this? So he was really, really terrific. But the 2 characters were different. Stanley Poole was like way like you, way down on the totem pole, right? So and he was like a reporter just trying to scrape his way to the top, and he would, you know, do pretty much anything. But Jeremiah Fink in BioShock Infinite was at the, you know, the top of the heap, and he was also evil. So less of an opportunist, but an opportunist in an evil way. So, yeah, 2 different guys. Jeremiah Fink was like this, and Stanley Poole was like this. So they're really 2 different guys. So, yeah, but it was fun being on both because you go to conventions and cons, and you can meet, you know, Daisy, or you can meet a little sister. And it's like, you know, both my characters interacted with both of you broads. Do you know what I mean? It's like little sister, very different from Daisy Fitzroy. So yeah, it was really fun doing both.
Yeah, it's got to be surreal too to see all the like fans, you know, that dress up for, you know, their cosplays.
It's the greatest. It's the greatest. I don't know what. I was at a con, and I think it was Illinois, and the Mandalorian walked by, and I don't mean a guy in the Mandalorian costume. I don't know what this guy spent, who his metallurgist was, but it was frickin' Mandalorian. And I'm like, Mando. And I said, well, all he's missing is Grogu in the little floating, and of course, behind him in a carriage he had created, there's the baby. the Baby Yoda. And I said, "You're great," and then he fired his laser at me. So, but yeah, it was. So you see all these great costumes and people, and it's like, what a welcoming community. I haven't been, not since like, high school, hanging out with the geeks. And I was a major geek in high school. And look at me now. Look at me now. But apart from that community that I had to forge out and find, to come to this kind of event, and it's like, everybody is so welcoming and so nice. It's like, why can't everything be this way? So, yeah, it's really great getting out of the booth and out into the public, and kind of experiencing that. So it's great.
That's
It's great.
excellent. Well,
It's a bright, happy place. So.
Let's open it back up to that wonderful community. We have a question over here. Matt, you want to bring the mic? Thank you.
Are you going to let me touch this with my greasy hands?
Hi.
Who is your favorite character that you have voiced and why?
Here's my answer to that. My favorite character is always the one that I'm doing right now. So it's really hard for me to say because I tend to plunge in a little bit, So it's like, what's this guy like? I mean, I played some really evil guys. One of my favorite evil guys was Bragg from, I think it was Mafia 2 or The Darkness. I don't have any pictures of him because he was bad. And, you basically you finish the recording session and you want to go wash. Do you know what I mean? It's like I can't believe I said this stuff, And then it'd be like, okay, he's going to kill this guy. He's already killed his girlfriend, but the guy doesn't know it yet. Now he's going to tell him that he killed his girlfriend, and he's going to kill the guy. But before he does it, he's going to shout across the warehouse some of the most vile, reprehensible phrases. And they're like, "Bill, do more." And I'm like, "You motherfucking man," And it's like, I finished, my wife's like, "How did it go?" I'm like, I have to go to confession, So that was good. One of my favorite nice guys was, I did an audiobook series called Geronimo Stilton. It was like a read-along, so I got to do, it's like an audiobook, but it's a kid's audiobook. I got to do all of the characters. But Geronimo Stilton was the main guy. He's like a mouse. He's a reporter mouse, as opposed to a mousy reporter, Stanley Poole. So, and he runs a newspaper, the Rodent Gazette, and he goes all over the world on his little mouse adventures. So that was completely charming, and, I always felt so good coming home after that. And then I'll add one thing which is current, which I can talk about because it's already aired. There's a show on Adult Swim called OMG Yes, Oh My God Yes, a series of relatable circumstances. That's the whole title. But it is about 3 women dating in like the 28th century or whatever century it was. And I would finish those sessions and come up. My studio at home is in the basement. Where it's quiet. And I would come up just smiling ear to ear. My wife would say, "What were you doing?" And I would smile, and she'd say, "Did you do more OMG yes?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So, but that's a current one. And I'm working on a children's series now. That's great. He's just a little cute guy. So yeah, it's anything. But those are some of my favorites. And Sparks from Sealab, it's just, I laughed all the time on that one. So. So many favorites.
I have a follow-up kind of related because with Sealab, it's arguably a show that, especially using the old footage, when it came out, it started almost like a whole new brand of TV. And so did you feel a sense of this is a unique type of voice role because it's like not like a completely original character scenario in a brand new show? It's like, the way that and other shows that came out around that time with Adult Swim, they started to like almost like mixed art mediums, were coming together.
Yeah, they did. I mean, the
show
animation.
on your
So,
end?
in case you don't know, Sealab 2021 was based on the actual animation of a science show for kids called Sealab 2020. So the drawn characters existed. They were all there. They had different names, and they were all really serious and scientific. But then Adult Swim said, and this is Cartoon Network, so it will come as no surprise to voice actors that Cartoon Network is really cheap. You know, it's like they're in Atlanta. It's called favored nations clauses in the contract, right to work, which means you get no money. So, and there's nothing on the back end. There's no residuals. So it's like, that sounds good to me. It sounds like fun. So, we did it, and then we realized as soon as we saw the scripts, I was talking to somebody about this earlier today who stopped by the table, which is a stone's throw away. So if you have a stone, throw it. And I said the term we'd use when we read the script was funny on the page. It's kind of an actory term. In other words, I can read this and laugh my butt off. And all the scripts were like that. So yeah, in that respect, I kind of know. I said, this is kind of groundbreaking. I don't know, maybe, but really funny, irreverent, with crazy fun animation. And if it didn't exist already, to save the money, they added stuff in it, in that style. Yeah, and there was Aqua Teen Hunger Force. There was Space Coast Coast to Coast, Brack, and the weird part of the story is we did 5 seasons of it. Now, was it 5 years? Maybe it was like, seasons don't always last like a calendar year. But we did 4 or 5 seasons of it. And it was one of the most successful shows out of, but the stupid thing about Adult Swim at that point was like, we're going to break ground. We're going to cancel the show because it's the most popular. It's like, you guys have taken irreverence to a whole new level. Now you're simply going to cancel a show because it's good. But they did, and they kept Aqua Teen Hunger Force for a long time, and Brack they kept, which I was really happy about, oddly. And but yeah, Sealab they got rid of. I'm like, well, we were really successful. So now we're done. But yeah, that was great. We had so much fun on that.
Yeah, because hindsight is 2020, obviously, with a lot of the things that are pioneering a new style. But I just it's interesting to hear when you were doing it back then, how that experience felt. So thank you.
It felt great, and it's still on. You can still find it on one of the streaming services, one of the few that remain. So to the others, I say, ha ha.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, let's open it up. Anybody else got some questions out there? I wanted to give some time. Yes. Do him first.
When you were first kind of coming up as a voice actor, did you have any voice actor idols that you look to? And do you find yourself pulling from any of those performances
today? I find myself
pulling from any of those performers today?
I don't know. I've had voice actor friends who say, they're pulling from things all the time, especially when, like I said before, there's a character that has pre-existed that you're going to do your own thing with. I mean, I did the parquet margarine tub. Remember? Butter. So I did that. But I did it. It had been gone for 15 years. And so they had this huge audition, and they're like, we're going for the parquet margarine tub. And usually audition, you go in, you sign in. This is pre-COVID when you would actually go to auditions. Now you do a lot of from home. And you sign in, and you say, well, then you wait for them to come out with the script called the copy in advertising. And it's like, oh, great, so I can't wait to see what we're going to do with the parquet margarine tub. And he comes out, and he starts passing out sheets to everybody. And I look at the sheet, and there's one word on it. Butter. So I'm like, what the hell is going on? So what do you do with that? So I was like, well, I said, I'm going to do it my way. So, which is the, butter. But then it's like, what if he's angry? What if he's happy? What if he's sad? So that wound up working out. And what was the question? No. So, yeah, you were asking specifically like. Oh, the idols. Yeah. Okay. Well, obviously the tub. No. But yeah, any actor will tell you that you draw from things. There was a show called The Ant and the Aardvark in. My God, it was in the 70s. It was part of the Pink Panther series. Not involved in it, but I watched it. And the two characters, the Ant and the Aardvark, the Aardvark was Jackie Mason. You're going to talk like this. You're going to talk, hey, Ant, hey, we're talking, and it's an Aardvark. The Ant was Dean Martin. Oh, I don't know, me. I got that Aardvark. So. And I'm like, okay, so that voice actor is saying, wouldn't it be funny? Wouldn't it be funny if the Aardvark was Jackie Mason? You know who he is, right? And then the end, of course, was Dean Martin, and they were like, that's great. So you draw that way. In terms of me, who are the idols? I mean, anybody that doesn't say Mel Blanc is a liar. Because maybe you don't know this, but any of the Bugs Bunny cartoons, he does every voice. He does every voice, which is any voice actor's dream job, really. But then some don't do that. I mentioned Geronimo Stilton, where I was able to do all the characters, so it was like that. But yeah, he'd be one of them. And then you look at specific people like Tom Kenny doing SpongeBob, you know, just great. Or pick any memorable character, and you can be like, that's a good voice actor person. That other voice actually be like, oh, that guy's great, you know. And then you get guys who just, you know, kind of mail it in. There was a period on Adult Swim where everybody was like, you know, like, I guess we're painting the house, huh? Yeah, we're gonna paint the house, you know. Like all that, and there's nothing going on. And you're like, well, that's not fun. So yeah, some of the classic guys, absolutely. But you never want to copy them. I know one guy that, name is Jeff Bergman, really talented guy. And the way he got this job was to, it was going to be for Warner Brothers, and they wanted people to do like all of the Bugs Bunny characters. So he sent them, he got a call back from the guy, and he goes, hey, listen, Jeff, I got your audition reel. He said, but I think you made a mistake. He said, you sent me a Bugs Bunny cartoon. And Jeff said, yeah. And the guy said, so I don't get it. And Jeff said, I did all the voices. So he recorded all of the voices on a classic Bugs Bunny cartoon, put music in. Well, he got the job. But he did like all of the Mel Blanc voices, so who wouldn't want that? Me, I'd be like, am I going to do all of those? It's somebody else's. It's a weird thing. So yeah, I would say, you know, emulate, yeah, but not imitate. Does that make any sense?
I think we had a couple questions over here. We got two.
Making people work, getting the microphone over there.
Well,
so I was going to ask you, just because this is a different type of industry than, say, you would have an actor that you would see on screen. You know, voice acting is completely different. And then we've obviously had COVID and all kinds of different changes and everything. What does your typical day look like? And how has that changed over time? You know, it may be, again, 30 years ago, it's like grinding 60 hours a week doing this, that, or the other. Now it's, you know, I'm curious to know kind of what that looks like.
The difference is staggering and scary. Not necessarily in a bad way, but typically, and let's go back, you know, I'll go back before people started doing home studios. So you're thinking, let's just go back, just for fun, to like 2008. So typically, now, after we had a baby, we moved to New Jersey because I think kids deserve a yard, right? As opposed to concrete. Nothing against the city, I'm a New Yorker. But anyway, so my day would be get up, go into the city, a drive-in, New York traffic, and then I would have an audition here on 19th Street, audition here on 23rd Street, up to 86th Street for an audition, down to the Bowery for another audition, up here for a session. I was bouncing all over the city. You know, before people had, you know, iPhones that were counting their steps, I must have been doing 30,000 steps a day. Subways, you know, whatever, grab lunch. Oh, I got a 2-hour break. I would go see a movie. My wife's, where are you? I'm like, I'm in a movie. It's like, I can't talk about a movie. I'd bring a sandwich in. And then at the end of the day, go home and, you know, it was, a lot of the stuff was commercial stuff, so it was advertising hours, which means they're done at 5:30, which means you're done at about 6. You get to the car, you drive home at 7:30, and it's like, where's my supper, woman? Which I never said. So that was a typical thing, and a lot. So then, fast forward a little bit longer, and there's, people start doing home studios. So now it's 2010, and I said to my agent, should I put in a home studio? She said, Bill, I don't see you as the kind of guy that would want to lock yourself in your studio. You're a people person, right? And I'm like, you're so right. So I didn't build a studio. It wasn't 2 years later, she called me into her office and said, Bill. I said, yeah, Robin, what is it? She says, have you thought about a home studio? So it totally changed. That was 2004 14 that I built my studio, and it's great. I had a lot of people help me. Not gigantic, but it's great. I got a lot of compliments on the sound. And 3 or 4 years later, it's COVID time, and I was so glad I had it. But even before that, if it snowed and there's 2 inches of snow on the ground, you can bring a city to a standstill. And I could say to my agent, "Can I record this from home?" And she was like, "Absolutely." So that was the kind of thing that it kind of evolved, and now I feel bad for the people that are running casting studios, because all those places I was talking about where you sign in, it's like a lot of them don't exist, because everybody says, "I'm going to do this from home," or they want you to, and record it from home too.
Well, I'm a remote worker, so the isolation piece, you had it a little before, but then COVID, and then you're like,
but
are we
listen,
in the right industry?
at a certain point, I'm used to the isolation, because you are working, But COVID was weird, but then again, I'm like, I'm doing this already.
Right.
There were some days on COVID, I swear to God, it was the exact, because now I'm recording home more frequently, it was the exact same thing.
But
Nothing
maybe a little
changed for me in
extra
COVID.
time, so.
What's that?
I said with some extra time, you don't have to bounce around.
Yeah, more time for my wife to be like, "What are you doing home?" But like, "I'm working." So then everybody started working from home. But yeah, it was crazy. And then but literally some days I'm like, they're like, "Dude, how you doing?" I'm like, "It's the same, except there's no break that I get to go into the city, so, or out to LA. That happens too."
Hi. Thank you for all of this awesome stories and information.
You're welcome.
When did you realize that this was something that you wanted to pursue as a profession, as a discipline? And what was your training process? Because you've got a very broad vocal range. You just did an audiobook where you voiced all of the characters. How do you build that capability to voice in all those different timbres?
First, I'll tell you the first part first. As politicians, I'm going to take the third part first, second part first, second part third. So when did it start? Right after the doctor at the hospital slapped me in my bottom. I cried in 3 different languages. But, it was never not. And I think that scared the hell out of my parents. It really did. My father was like a New York telephone guy, 9 to 5, get a job, go to college. And then I go to college, and I want to, I was ready to tell him, like, because there was like college fairs, what do you kids want to do, that kind of thing. Which is, I think, a ridiculous question to ask a 16-year-old. You know what I mean? Did I say X? Oh, my God, I'm such a New Yorker. I'm going to ask you a question. What the fuck is you? So, it's New York. I'm the children here. I'm so sorry. So, but it's New York. So, I was all set to like tell him, maybe a theater school, maybe things like that. And he sat me, he's a big Irish guy. He goes, "All right, we're supposed to talk about college now." He said, "And I don't want to hear about this acting shit." And I was like, "Oh, there goes that." I mean, the conversation. So I had the brilliant idea that I'd wave it past him and be like, what I'll do is go into TV and film production. He'll be into that. And he will totally buy that when I say, I think instead I'd like to go into TV and film production. So I sat him down and I said, "Dad, what do you think?" And I said, "I think I want to go into TV and film production." And he looked at me and he said, "That's great." He totally bought it. Totally bought it. So then I went to Fordham in the Bronx, and I started taking TV and film classes. But I would sneak. I would sneak around and do shows, because you can't get the crying baby to stop crying. So, and then I started taking, and then eventually after college I was doing shows. They came to the shows. It was very clear what was going on, and we had a very sincere heart-to-heart, and he knew there was no dissuading me. So that's the first part. In terms of training, anything I could. So, of course, college stuff, acting, and then after that I started doing, not necessarily voiceover stuff. I started a little bit of voiceover lessons. Actually, my wife had said, you should take lessons with somebody. And I'm like, yeah, good point. So I started doing that, and the guy was great, very heavily commercial based. That was a much, much bigger thing than it is now. So I started doing that, and then at this point, not my wife, this other woman I was dating said, Have you heard of the Groundlings? Which is an improv company in LA, really well known, and they had just started a New York offshoot called Groundlings East. How do they come up with these names? And I started taking classes with them. So that's very character-based. It's writing. I also was doing puppeteering. So, even Jim Henson didn't just do Kermit. By the way, anybody who tells you they do puppeteering and they go like this, they're not a puppeteer. Puppeteers go like this. Because you got a headset on, the stage is here, and the puppet is up here. So you say, yeah, I do, I'm a puppeteer. You're like, you're a liar. The only puppet that did it was Sherry Lewis. But it's like, this is puppeteering. So I did that. That's character stuff. I did the improv stuff. So you see, it was like a lot of disciplines. Now, to bring it back around to TV and film production, people say, well, if your dad had handled you differently, or manhandled me differently, if your dad had handled you differently, would you have gone to acting school? And right now, I believe I wouldn't change a thing. I would not change it. So I have him to thank for that, Dad. But yeah, because it taught me about the on-camera side of things, directing, knowing not just like hitting your mark, but knowing what a writer is doing, and that I think it all contributes. So there's really a lot of disciplines, and then the other thing is like just listen. If you're an actor trying to do anything, you pick your actor. Ryan Reynolds, he's going to do this role. He's a Secret Service guy, or he's Deadpool. Whatever it is, you're going to learn and listen and research. And who knows? Will you find a smart-ass bunny from the Bronx? No, you're not going to really find a talking bunny. And if you are, let me know, because I'd like some of your LSD. But you know what I'm saying? It's like you got to keep your eyes and ears open, as any actor would. There's one guy who was in Arcane, J.B. Blanc, and he's just a wonderful guy. He played Vander in Arcane. And we were on, I think, a podcast. And what he said, Bill, he said, voice acting is acting. And it kind of sticks with you, not just the way he sounds. And this is exactly how he sounds, Bill. Voice acting is so that's it. Voice acting is not just, oh, yeah, voice actor. Any voice actor gets upset when you say, oh, yeah, voice actor. It's like, no, it's acting. It is. So that's it.
That's great. Thank you. Do we have any other questions from the audience? I want to make sure. Oh, we got one over here. Come on, Matt. You got to get over
Does
there.
anybody remember Phil Donahue?
Yeah.
That's an old school callback, but he used to run around with his microphone.
Oh, I just got a silly question. You ever mess with your friends or telemarketers by answering the phone with some of your random character voices?
Oh, you've been reading my mail, reading my email. Yes. Oh my God, the pranks we would do. One of my favorites is I went to school in the Bronx, and you get a phone, and there's one guy in the suite who's responsible for paying the bill, and which means he's not going to get the money from anybody. So, but yeah, the phone would ring in our suite, and we'd answer up. It's like, for the morgue, you kill him, we chill him. And the crank phone calls. I mean, my father worked for the phone company. That means that they don't do it anymore. But when your father works for the phone company, your phone bill is free. It's free. So guess where the kids went? Whose house they went to do the prank phone calls? My house. And just every, game shows, it's like, you've won $5,000, and the woman's like, oh my God, congratulations, and then, the woman, and then we go outside, the woman's got to be waiting for the money, but in 1 hour, we'll be by and then we go outside, wait by the house, you know what I mean? It's like, it was ridiculous. It was so bad, and then of course we got caught, and I think I lost an arm, but it was bad, it was so bad. My father came home with the bill. What the hell is this? And I stupidly said, Dad, it's free. I got to show them this. He just blew up at me. What are you doing? What are all these local calls? I'm like, they're crank phone calls. I'm sorry. So, yeah, a lot. And then at college, oh, forget it. It was awful. We should have been arrested. We'd call campus security. It's like, there's a fire in the, it's like ridiculous. We called up one guy. It was a blizzard. So we had nothing to do. So we called up this guy. Sorry, the girl. And her name was Maureen, and his name was John, Johnny O. And but we didn't have to imitate him. We just said, Maureen, it's John. It's John, I'm really sick. I need you to come over. And she was like across campus. So, of course, now we're in this big dorm. We know where Maureen lives, and we know where John lives, and we're right in the middle. And it's like, here she goes, and she's all bundled up. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. She's going, and she's banging on John's door. You know, John comes out, what's going on? You said you were sick. What the fuck? So we laughed. So yeah, a lot, a lot. And there's more stories. Find me later. But yeah.
Well, if we have any more questions, I want to open it up to it. But if not, can we get a nice round of applause for Bill Lobley for coming out and
Yeah,
taking the
thanks
time to speak
everybody.
with everyone?
Listen, make sure you stop by my table. I have cheeseburgers. I have everything you'd want to buy. But if you have a phone, I don't know how many people have cell phones, follow me on Instagram. It's at B Lobley, Lobley. Look me up. I love followers. I respond to DMs most of the time. Don't stalk me. I got kids. But yeah, thank you so much. And I'm over there. Come by. Just say hello. Shake my hand. I don't care.
Yeah, get a little more intimate conversation one-on-one. But thanks, everybody, for taking the time and joining us. And thanks again, Bill.